We are being recorded right now. Right. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us for Careers in Intelligence. We have wonderful alumni here waiting to share their background and story in their own career journey. We're going to give it a minute or two to let everybody sign on. We've got quite a few coming in right now. All right, for those who are signing in, you can see from the shared screen that we are in Federal Employment Week. So you're here at our first event, and we will have one more within the Career Enrichment Network tomorrow with how to write a federal resume, which is very valuable. Through your interest in intelligence and the federal government, it is very different than a one-page resume. And then we'll end the week with the shared event of the Criminal Justice Policy and Intelligence Career Expo is being put on by the Criminal Justice Research Center and the Department of Criminology and Sociology here at Penn State, but co-sponsored by Liberal Arts and many of our other academic colleges. So I believe we have over 50 employers that are going to be in Alumni Hall on the 21st. So you're welcome to join between 11 and 3. Okay, I think we are gonna, wow, 65. Guys, that's great. Fantastic. I love that. This is my first hosting gig for fall 2023, and I am with some of my favorite people. So we're going to dive into with the experts, and we may have one more alumnus joining us, but we're going to get started to make sure we give you some valuable information. So I am going to introduce everybody, and to start us off, we have Sharon Callahan. Sharon graduated from Penn State in 1983 with a BS degree in French business. As part of her degree program, she studied with Penn State at the Institut Universitaire de Technologie in Nice, France. She moved to Washington, D.C. after graduation, and in 1985, began a 34-year career with the Central Intelligence Agency, where she worked in a number of mission areas, including counterterrorism, counterintelligence, Africa, East Asia, and cyber. She served overseas in Africa, Asia, and Europe, and represented the agency for 2 years at the FBI's National Cyber Investigative Joint Task Force. She retired at the end of 2019 as an executive manager. Sharon currently works part-time as an instructor and mentor with the agency's new hires. She also teaches English as a second language, is studying Italian, and serves with the College Liberal Arts Mentor Program. Sharon is originally from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and currently resides outside of Washington, D.C. in Herndon, Virginia. She has a daughter, Emily, who graduated from Penn State's College of Communications in 2018. Welcome, Sharon. Always busy. We also have Courtney Kay, and Courtney graduated from Penn State in 2020 with her bachelor's degree in psychology and minors in global security, Hebrew, and Middle Eastern studies. She completed an internship with the Department of State, Bureau of Counterterrorism, and Department of Homeland Security, Center for Prevention Programs and Partnerships. In 2022, she completed her master's degree in terrorism security and society at King's College in London, and she is now working at a private digital investigations firm, Protection Group International, where she actively practices social media and open source intelligence. Right, and last but not least, John Warrington is a retired supervisory special agent with the federal special. John, I'm tripping over yours. I don't know why. John Warrington is a retired supervisory special agent with the Federal Bureau of Investigation, who most recently led the Charleston and Hilton Head, South Carolina offices for all fiscal and personnel management, criminal investigative, and crisis response matters. He has more than 30 years of liaison, intelligence, and risk analysis work experience. As a global security practitioner, Mr. Warrington specializes in security protocol development, executive protection, leadership, and cross-functional team building. Most notably, he served as senior manager of the Protective Operations and Global Readiness Groups responsible for maintaining protection services for the United States Attorney General, the FBI Director, their families, VIPs, FBI and DOJ executives, and readiness of FBI personnel assigned overseas. Since retirement, he served as Vice President of Executive Protection for the Chubb Insurance Group in New York City, where he developed and employed best practice security solutions for C-suite personnel within international and domestic capacities. Currently, John does private security consulting. John passionately believes in collaboration as an effective force multiplier, where he fostered relationships with various international, federal, state, and local government agencies and private sector partners, including CBS's Criminal Minds Beyond Borders, ADT, Gavin DeBecker and Associates, and the Gates Foundation. So welcome to all of you. Thank you for joining us. We are recording today, so we will hopefully be putting this on our YouTube channel, where we have a variety of alumni conversations to share with our students here as well, to check those out. But to kick us off, I want to first some laundry. Students, you are welcome to put your questions in the Q&A. That's easy for me to monitor, and we will bring them up as they come. But I'll kick us off to say, how did you all decide on your career journey? And we'll start with you, John, since I introduced you last.
Well, yeah, so I think, it's real important. I want to impress, thanks to my fellow panelists and Katie for having me, and thanks for what you guys do for our country and for the economy. And thanks for the students for signing in and your interest in this career path. For me, it's really important that I impress upon people to leverage your why in terms of what you want to do. So for me, my why was, I had some tough circumstances growing up as a kid, which led me into wanting to protect people from bullies. And that was sort of my why. And then I used that throughout my schooling and part-time jobs to take those roles and shape me. But in 11th grade study hall, 2 FBI agents and a task force officer from Scranton Police Department in Pennsylvania came to talk to us, and from that day forward, I want to be an FBI agent.
Thank you so much for sharing.
Sure.
Courtney?
Hi, everybody. So I think I decided on my career mostly through following my interests, following what I'm interested in. So that included at Penn State taking any and all classes that I was interested in, from criminology to SRA classes to language to global studies. And then kind of following from there where I wanted to go and take things. I changed my majors and minors around a few times, figured it out in the end. But then I think what it's really important to do is then follow up your interests with action. So I took advantage of every opportunity that I was given, or any opportunity I looked for, to actually experience things in the career. And what this did was help me figure out what about different positions and different career paths that I like and don't like. So I thought that was really imperative to my undergrad career, to be able to, while I'm figuring out what I'm interested in, actually in practice, experiencing different types of work, and then following that to find the right position.
Thank you, Courtney. Karen?
So I think that what I'm going to say is, don't do what I did necessarily. I think you can tell that I'm probably the oldest of the group. And I say that to say we did not have the resources available to us that you all do. You know what I mean? Katie knows I'm one of the biggest fans of the Career Enrichment Network, because we didn't have something like that. So when I was graduating, and I think I wasn't alone at the time, people didn't give as much thought to what were they going to do when they came out. It was almost this accomplishment, like, oh, I graduated from college. And so I didn't give it enough thought. And being a language major, that, I think is kind of tricky, because I realized that's it's an enhancement, but you need to know how to do something else, right? So I was very fortunate that at my first job, which was not my dream job, but it was in international, it was like import export. The vice president of the company was very small. He said, listen, if you're interested in things like having the opportunity to live overseas, using a foreign language, and having a career instead of a job, he said, you probably should look at the CIA, like look at the agency. And so I did. And then I ended up applying. And I had another job after that because it doesn't happen overnight. So I feel really fortunate that he took the time to say that to me and have that conversation with me, which again is like doing something like this. Hopefully, if a few of you can get yourselves a little bit more information to figure out which path you might like to at least start down. That I think that's why I enjoy doing this. So that is how I did it, and don't do it like me. There you go. Yeah.
Sure. You know, I know a lot of our students, you know, we meet with over 2,000 students in our office every year. And, you know, I feel very blessed to have been a part of Courtney's 4 years here. Long time ago, huh, Courtney? But we hear a common trend of interest in intelligence and law. What advice and reasonable expectations would you give to our students as they're considering the field of federal or private intelligence as a career pathway? And I'll put that out for anyone who'd like to start.
I can start.
Okay, thanks, Sean.
So, folks, if you're really interested in an intelligence career, and I want to thank you, Sharon, for bringing up what you did. But this is not a job. This is not. It's a career. It's a calling. It's a lifestyle. You're serving your country or in private sector, the economy, and just helping business with providing intelligence to mitigate threats or identify emerging threats that haven't even come, like artificial intelligence or space type stuff that we're looking at now, and robotics. But take classes, have experiences that put you in the capacity to find information, digest that information, eat it up, and then have the ability to convey it that makes sense to others, whether it's taking international relationships or traveling internationally. But you've got to take information to somebody like me who was hostage rescue, SWAT guy, dumb, Grog the caveman type of guy, and have people like the other people on the panel that I need that information to take it to do real-time actionable stuff. And then also as an organization, we need people to come in to think strategically and creatively and innovatively to identify those threats that are coming in the future that we don't even know that exist yet. And we saw that through COVID with the PPP loans for white collar crime. We're seeing it now with artificial intelligence. But have those experiences, take those classes that really make you research. And you're going to say, oh, there's another paper, it's 17 pages at least I got to do. But in that time of doing that 17 pages paper, you have to research. You have to then put it on paper. You have to digest it, verify it, validate it, reference it, and then disseminate it. And that's exactly what you're going to be doing in any type of these organizations that we have worked with.
There's a few things I want to add on to that, and I wrote it down because I didn't want it to leave my head. But the first is I completely agree with what John is saying. I think it's really important to know your audience. And that's, I think, true in the public sector and the private sector. Right now, my audience is social media clients, and the way they want information is very different than the way that I communicated in my experience in the government. So I think whatever position you're in, just by knowing your audience, you're going to have an upper hand, because if you know your audience, you're going to give them what they want and how they want it. And no matter who you're talking to, think of them as the client. You don't want to disappoint your client. So that was the first point that I wanted to make. The second point is that I do think that there are different lifestyles depending on what type of intelligence you want to go into. So I think, you know, what Sharon and John did, it may be a lifestyle where your job is consuming your what you do in your life sometimes. And I think, you know, being in the private sector right now, that is different. And I think it's important to maybe know what you want, but I think it's more important to know what you don't want. And if you don't want something like that, then I think it's very okay. But you know, you could check it off the list and then move on to something else. And then in private sector, the lifestyle might be a little different. And then the third point I wanted to make is if you're really interested in this career path, don't wait. There are a ton of opportunities for undergrads. There are a ton of opportunities for graduate students, those in school. And you know, those opportunities do slowly drift away the farther you get from graduating. So I wouldn't wait for any of this. If you're thinking of applying to something, if you think you're interested in something, do it now and you have absolutely nothing to lose.
That's great. And I'll just add to what both of you said and say that there's different types of intelligence careers. So while you have the chance to think about it, I mean, actually, Courtney mentioned it a little bit, but there's the private sector versus the public sector. There's also, when you're in the public sector, you might be supporting a civilian agency like the CIA, but the military uses, you know, I don't want to just say intel analysts, but intel and law enforcement, you know, like say where John is. That's so if you're self-aware and again, you know yourself, like Courtney mentioned, and you start to think about, well, I don't think I'm interested, let's say, in the military, but I might love to do something for law enforcement. Would you like to serve overseas or would you like to serve domestically? You know, so there's a lot of things you can start thinking about. There's also all different kinds of intelligence. Do you want to work in human intelligence, open source intelligence, signals intelligence, what the NSA does? So I think if you start to mull some of that over, and you know, there are certainly resources that we're happy to make them available to Katie to use, that can inform sort of your thought process about, you know, what skills and experiences you might want to go after to sort of build that resume a little bit.
Thank you all. We do have a couple of student questions coming in. They're slightly specific, but I'm curious limitations you see based on age and or green card or citizenship with multiple nationalities potentially, age meaning coming out of a bachelor's degree. I think we have a adult student coming out around the age of 40. Any age restrictions you see in getting in or when or nationalities in your areas?
Well, I can give you an easy answer on that. I believe, at least, I think for the entire intelligence community, but definitely for the CIA and probably the Bureau, you need to be a U.S. citizen.
That's great.
Not even a green card holder, but a U.S. citizen. So that might be the negative news. The positive news is the whole age thing has kind of gone on the window a little bit. So again, when I started, for some of these training programs that we have, 35 was the upper limit. But I work in that area now. We have all kinds of people coming through as a second career, you know, so age is not an issue. Experience is important. And I would say I've seen less people coming through maybe with like right out of a bachelor's program. That's not to say none, but just maybe less people have a little bit more experience. But I'll turn it over to you guys.
I'll add that if you want to go into the private sector, I think there might be less restrictions, or it might be a little bit easier to gain that experience that then you could use to go into the public sector. For example, my company does social media intelligence. As long as you know how to use social media really well and you're curious about it, then you can go for it. And we are a very international company. We have people from all over the world here, because we need a lot of languages. So that is a factor too in a lot of different private sector intelligence places, is that they need kind of international experience in languages in order to do that. And then I would just put in one quick plug for studying abroad and doing graduate school abroad. I did my master's degree in London. I'm currently in London working for a British company, and I love it. And it might be a little harder to get a visa if you don't study there, and you don't, and I don't know what the visa types are for all different countries. But if you want to study in the UK, they do have a graduate scheme now that you can get a work visa after graduating from a UK university. So that's how I got my visa, and it's a really cool international environment to work in. So I highly encourage it.
For the FBI, we're similar to the CIA, little bit differences. For those differences, I don't want to overtalk and take time away from questions from folks. So I would encourage all the listeners to go onto FBIjobs.gov and peruse around. That answers all of these questions. Not that I don't want to do it. I just don't want to waste your time for tuning into this when it's available to you on that website, FBIjobs.gov.
We have a lot of great questions coming in, and appreciate that resource, John. And I can put it in the chat here after we move on to the next question. But a lot of these questions are centered around how can I be competitive to get into these agencies? Specifically, they're looking at education. Is there advancement in master's level? Is there advancement in coming in from another experience? Military or law enforcement or elsewhere? Can you guys speak to any of the best practices to find themselves coming into these agencies and being competitive in nature? Sharon, do you want to start?
Sure. So I'm going to piggyback off what I said maybe 2 responses ago. But if you start to develop a good idea. So I think a lot of times when people think of intelligence, they're thinking of an analyst position, and there are a lot of analysts, right? There's 17 or 18 different agencies that have analysts, but there's also other positions. And again, I'm sure any of us would be happy to talk about that some more. So if you can start to narrow that down a little bit, it informs whether, like say within my organization, it's a bachelor's degree sufficient, or do you kind of need a master's degree? So my experience so far, I worked in what they call the Directorate of Operations. So we are not analysts, and we're generalists by background and trade. And we have our own training program. So I went in with a bachelor's degree, thinking, oh, later on I'll get a master's degree. But I realized at a certain point, it wasn't necessary. It's like I was getting my master's degree at work, right? Because an outside one wasn't going to really matter in-house. But definitely, if you wanted to be an analyst in our organization, you probably do want the master's degree. I can't say enough. I'm going to repeat what Courtney said. If you're interested in an intelligence agency or organization that has a foreign focus, will definitely take advantage of the study abroad program. And I would say work on a foreign language. Those are 2 things. Like if I'm scanning someone's resume, I'm looking for, and if it's been like a student's resume, I'm like, you want to move that stuff up, right? For if you're looking at our organization, you want to move that stuff up. Military and law enforcement experience is always a plus for us, but please don't think it's a necessity. It's a plus. Oh, and only get a graduate degree if you love the thing that you're getting a graduate degree in. Please don't, I would say for us, and just in general as a parent, that's when you really want to get a degree in something you love, right? That's just my experience.
From my experience getting my master's degree, I So I did my undergrad in psychology. And while I love psychology, my career path changed a little bit through when I was at Penn State. And I got out of Penn State and realized I have a degree in psychology, but I want to go into counterterrorism. How do I do that? And I knew that this was really what I wanted to do. So the logical step for me was going and getting my master's. And in my case, I do think it really elevated me to the next level, only because I didn't have an international relations degree or an SRA degree. So it made me stand out when I wanted to apply for those positions specifically. And then the other thing I wanted to say that I think I worked on with Katie when I was at Penn State a lot is you have to brand yourself. And you have to brand yourself in the right ways to tailor to each job description. And I can guarantee you that no matter what you did on your resume, you can find a way to brand it to the job that you are applying for. I think as liberal arts students, we need to leverage the fact that we've gotten an interdisciplinary education. That means you're versatile. It means that you can critically think. It means that you can do all these things that maybe other people aren't leveraging. So I think really leveraging that and marketing yourself, and then to what John said earlier, knowing your why, those are really going to put you at an advantage over other people.
Thank you, Courtney. And Vic, welcome. Thank you for joining us. I want to make sure to introduce Vic. We're so glad to have him with us. He serves as Supervisory Special Agent Division Chief at U.S. Department of Homeland Security Investigations Headquarters. In this role, he oversees HSI's national security programs, which are responsible for identifying, disrupting, and dismantling national security threats, terrorist organizations, and hostile foreign intelligence entities. Special Agent Curley has served over 16 years with Homeland Security with assignments ranging from narcotics and contraband smuggling investigations in Arizona to having served as Homeland Security Attaché to the U.S. Embassy, Honduras, as well as leading internal affairs offices with the Office of Professional Responsibility. He also served more than 25 years in the U.S. Army Reserves with 3 overseas tours in support of Operations Iraqi Freedom and Enduring Freedom. Special Agent Curley obtained a BS in Crime Law and Justice from Pennsylvania State University in 2004 and obtained a Master of Legal Studies degree from American University of Washington College of Law in 2022. Special Agent Curley is a proud father of 2, devoted husband, and a dedicated mentor to youth and young adults, and we always appreciate you and your support, Vic. We have been talking about your careers and how you decided on them, and if you have any additional advice you'd like to share and what our students should be working on now to make them competitive in the job application.
Well, thank you, Katie, and my apologies that that lengthy bio. We got to shorten that.
It's all good.
It just says that I'm old, but I apologize for joining late. I don't know if you guys saw in the news some weeks ago about it Uzbekistan threat. Fortunately, my unit is one of the primary entities dealing with that right now. So, career-wise, I heard some of my other colleagues on giving fantastic sound advice. The one thing I'll tell you is diversity in your portfolio weigh a lot heavier than stacking degrees upon degrees when you're coming out of college. When you're looking at your first job, I tend to think from my perspective that the master's degree, for example, it's very efficient when you're moving into management level positions. So as you might have heard, I obtained my master's degree in 2022, which was well into my career. It was a point in my career where I was already a GS-15 in federal service and looking to be competitive for the senior executive service. And at that point in time, my degree focus area was legal studies, because I found at this point in my career, I was focused a lot more on policy and understanding law, interpreting law, and applying it in order to accomplish our mission as a senior member of our agency in Homeland Security. So that particular degree field helped to give me some of the tools and some of updated legal information that was relevant to our line of work at that particular stage of my career. So right now in college, undergrad, I do entry level. I do entry level interview panels, resume reviews, and what I like to see most is that people have interesting and diverse academic backgrounds, that they're involved in activities that you can articulate in each one of those activities or work experiences that you have, accomplishments, successes. We're looking for successful people. So if you can quantify and establish how you've maximized your time while you're in college to make yourself the best candidate, you're going to stand out as the best candidate. And there's not one way to do that. It can be done via many things, many extracurricular activities, internships, student employment at the university, and working as a TA and focus groups and discussion groups. I mean, there's all sorts of ways that you can make yourself and your resume stand out, but it just needs to show through in your resume and also when you interview.
Thank you. That's great. There are a lot of questions. And Vic, I think you clarified this through your comments, concerned about major and that they're feeling like the intelligence fields are looking more for STEM. Do we still feel the liberal arts have I mean, you all are great evidence of that sitting in front of me. There's still a table for liberal arts.
So we can talk about that. I mean, here's the deal. When it comes to intelligence, one, and I've worked extensively with the intelligence community, and an intelligence officer. Oops.
Awesome. Oh, well, thank you. Oh gosh, anyone want to continue on the support of liberal arts and intelligence? And that it's not just STEM?
Well, I would say many agencies in the federal government, but particularly intel agencies, are hiring non-STEM graduates. So we're often looking for people, we're looking at them actually for whether they're a good fit, right? So sometimes it's your skills, your innate skill set, and then the things that you polished getting your liberal arts degree that will actually get your foot in the door. Things like good judgment, self-awareness, critical thinking, ability to communicate, these kinds of things. And just, will you be a good overall fit with the organization? Rather than even what your degree was in. I would say definitely, it doesn't mean if you have a STEM background, there are going to be jobs for you, but sort of some of the ones that we're looking for as an analyst or an operator are most people are liberal arts graduates.
I had zero intelligence, OSINT or SOCHMENT experience when I got started in my current position. And what my job was really looking for and stressed to me, because I was nervous, was you have the curiosity, you have the thinking, the critical thinking skills, when we can teach you all the rest. And when it comes to getting a position in the private or public sector, they have very specific ways that they want you to conduct intelligence, and you're going to learn that when you're there. So what you can market are the things that make you a great worker, a great person, a good fit for the company, rather than if your skills don't necessarily fit or aren't developed yet. Did that make sense? I think it did.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Yeah. Vic, I know you were cut off. Sharon took your place and finished it off there.
They did. I was basically going to say what they were saying. I just want to reiterate, liberal arts fields prepare you. So one of my colleagues was addressing the two basic sides, operational side versus the analysis or analytics side of the house when it comes to intelligence. I mean, those are two very distinct different career paths within the whole intelligence background. And I've done both. I've done human intelligence operations and and intelligence analysis. And the best that I can say is I believe that, you know, for the operational side of the house, the ability to intelligently talk to people of different cultures and backgrounds, and be comfortable learning new cultures and environments outside of what you're used to. Being able to you know, build rapport and elicit information from people, that's a very standard function. You know, spot assessing, recruiting, certain trade craft that we learn, all the stuff that you're going to learn. You know, having a background in liberal arts, I believe, is a lot. It's going to prepare you a lot more than a lot of the STEM backgrounds. But then the STEM work is also important if you're doing analysis, specifically if you're analyzing, you know, financial data, looking at illicit finance and going into the technical side of following money to identify transnational organized crime with terrorist networks that are operating globally. You know, there can be certain things that you can put into your academic background that will make you a stronger analyst, you know, on the STEM side. But I just, again, as one of my other colleagues said, you're going to learn the trade craft and the techniques, you know, when you get hired on with a particular agency.
Thank you for that. I know we're limited in time. We could talk about this for 2-3 hours. And again, our student audience is amazing right now at 74. So I want to go down the rabbit hole of clearances, background checks, and how do you suggest students navigate that? I specifically have a question of foreign travel, you know, looking to increase their foreign travel and international experience, but I don't want them to hurt themselves either with said travel. So any advice on the clearance process, the length of it, the contacts, expectations? Sharon, I know you've been navigating this for a long time with our mentees, so I'll have you start with that.
Yes, I'm still navigating it too. Even when you're retired, if you work part-time for them, you still have to follow the same rules. Here's the really, really good news. I think everybody assumes that you have to have a totally clean record in order to work for any of these agencies. And the thing is, they're realistic, right? So even something as simple as smoking pot / reefer / weed, whatever generation you are, that doesn't keep you out anymore. It may have when I applied, but there's a certain time frame they're looking at, right? So hopefully you didn't do it yesterday if your interview is today. You know what I mean? But if it's like just even within the past couple months, 6 months, you know what I mean? Don't hold yourself. I would say at a minimum, don't take yourself out process, right? Don't do things. There's actually quite a lot of normal people working at these agencies, right? And it is the grand conundrum. Oh, well, go overseas or meet foreigners and show that you can establish relationships with them, all that. But then it's going to take more time to do your security or background clearance. Our new director told people, I want folks cleared to get in here within 180 days. So apparently that's what the backlog is right now, only 6 months from the moment you apply to get in, which is unheard of. I don't expect that to last because I think we're probably letting some people slip in that shouldn't be there. But it's better than the 2, 3, or I heard of somebody recently 5 years because she had lived in China and because COVID held things back. So I think the bottom line is yourself out of a process. And as I've said to Katie, I'm happy to talk through with anyone any concerns. That you can't have a felony on your record, okay? So it can't go that extreme. But they realize that you may, you know, or somebody asked me recently, like when they were in high school or college, you know, they did some prank and something might have gotten damaged, but it was never reported or anything. And I'm like, they're really looking for the big thing. Were you hired by the Chinese or Russians to come and work for one of these agencies, or have you committed a felony, something big?
John, I've been interviewed by FBI agent in the past for a student doing application process, and any other advice on the timing or just the expectations in the application process from the FBI?
Yeah, so for the FBI or background checks, usually they're time limited. So they get sent out, like, let's say, Katie, you're applying to the FBI as an analyst or a special agent or a professional administrative specialist. Those three job categories are pretty much overall what we have in the FBI. They're all very similar to get the classification level. I certainly echo what Sharon said regarding drug usage, but I want to say that, because she's framing it positively, and I appreciate that, and I want to frame it positively too. That we're not looking for Jesus of Nazareth to join the FBI. We're sort of looking at Mary Magdalenes who own their stuff and get in. That, and Vic knows this too. The difference between DHS and FBI and the law enforcement agencies and CIA is CIA ain't gonna testify in a court of law. So their backgrounds can be a little bit more gritty, if you will. For the law enforcement agencies, if that's the route you want to take, you keep in mind you'll have to testify, and a defense attorney can impeach your character on the stand, and you could lose a trial because of drug use, criminal violations, things like that. So it has gotten a little bit more liberal, if you will, but I would recommend just living a clean lifestyle, continue to travel overseas. Sharon's 100% right. If you live overseas for an extended period of time, that will lengthen your background check significantly. But if you've traveled over there for a couple of weeks with the family or whatever, then it's we have offices overseas. They send the lead over to that office. Let's say in Vienna, Austria, our attachés there, they do the thing with the government and our government colleagues over there in Vienna, and then they send it back, and that headquarters puts a deadline on it. So that usually we're looking at our backgrounds to take anywhere up to 2 years as a normal circumstance from start to finish. And that once you begin the process, your background will continue to go on as you're going through the different phases for the FBI, like polygraph and physical fitness test, if you choose agent, or whatever the case may be in intelligence side of the house too. So it's usually about 2 years, and that's, and you're right, Sharon, it is increasing for those people that are overseas. So, but live your best life, but not a criminal.
I just
Love
wanted to add really quickly on that. Do not lie. Whatever you do, don't let anything you've done discourage you, but just don't lie. People write uncomfortable stuff on their background checks, and you're definitely not the first one to do it. So just don't lie. And if you do travel abroad, study abroad, such as I did, keep a list of people that are your close contacts. Keep a list of places you traveled, when and where, and just have that in the back of your hand ready for if you apply for something with the government.
Great advice. John, this is a specific one for the FBI. They saw on the website that 23 is the age limit to be a special agent. Is there truth in that that's listed on the website?
I've known one in my career, my 24 years in the FBI, I've known one person who was 23 that actually became a special agent. Usually what we like to see, it's what they mandate pretty much is bachelor's plus 2 years of any work experience. We appreciate any full-time work experience because we like a multidisciplinary, diversified group of people that think differently and have different backgrounds, cultures, all that stuff. Master's or PhD plus 1 year of work experience, unless you have a really specialized skill set. That 23-year-old that has led a pretty good life in terms of experience and can speak Farsi and Arabic and maybe German, they're coming in. I'm telling you right now, they're coming in. So yeah, but the general rule, bachelor's plus 2 years of work experience, master's or PhD plus 1.
Great, thank you for that clarification.
Sure.
And I know we're at time. I just have a few little questions. I see we still have 67 students. So if you three are good, I might just ask one or two more. Is there a specific language right now that's very popular for students to be learning if they're interested in a life intelligence career?
I mean, I'm happy to take a stab at that.
Yeah.
First of all, we like to see that you have the ability to learn a language, correct? So don't say, oh, I have Spanish or French. These were mine. The fact that you can even, or you're interested in and willing to learn a language, a foreign language, that's a plus. But there's no getting around, as John just said, if you have some Chinese, if you have some Farsi, some Arabic, and now look what's come back up again, Russian. So, you know, these kinds of what we call the critical languages, if you have even some, that is received very well. But I always say, because I've said this to my mentees, do not go out and learn Russian or Arabic if you hate it, right? Don't do that. Pick something you might enjoy. That makes more sense to me. Don't just do it because you think it will make you more attractive.
Great, thank you. And is there any difference when it comes to hiring in military reservists based on full career?
I saw that question was directed at kind of at Vic, right?
It was. Mm-hmm.
So did the question person ask whether or not it was, so is the hiring, let me, Katie,
Active duty.
is a reservist any different than active military duty personnel in terms of hiring?
Yeah, it asked Vic, were you always an Army reservist or did you have active duty? Are there any weaknesses from reserve services?
I want to very much just look for the first people who are in the FBI. I can speak to that, and I know I can speak for my experience at Chubb and stuff. It's a diverse background. So a reservist versus active duty is not going to matter. What will matter is what experiences you were given during your reserve time and during your active duty time. That's what we look at. To echo on both what all the other panelists, all three of them said, Vic before he left was the same thing. It's just he's back now, so he can answer better. But
Vic, they were asking. I'm sorry, I'm echoing now. Reservists and active duty. Did you have were you active duty at one point? And are they looked at differently in your application? Or is it just a plus to have military background?
Yeah, I mean, a short answer, yes, there's a difference, and there are technical differences in service. So you can serve in the reserves and potentially, not qualify for any veterans benefits or things of that nature. You can also serve in the reserves and qualify, i.e. service in campaigns, et cetera. So the easiest answer is I've done both. I've done active duty and the reserves. I've experienced from both that were relative experience that helped my career goals. But there's a lot of technical aspects of it. Veterans preference comes with service. 5-point veterans preference comes with service during the wartime or during a campaign, right? Being deployed, so to speak, to a particular named campaign area. So those things you can't necessarily plan for. It's not something that you go in and say, well, I'm gonna enlist in the reserves and then I'm gonna do a campaign and I'm gonna have veteran status. It doesn't really work that way. There's a lot of different variables that can happen if you join the military. So anybody that wants to talk about like what the different advantages are of joining a reserve component versus active component, or one component versus another, one job. As you guys, Katie, you guys probably know, I have a former mentee from Penn State that went into the Army. He's doing fantastic. He had a particular circumstance that it really benefited from him to go into the Army. He's got his top secret security clearance. He's doing wonderful work, getting awards and everything, and he'll have a career in federal law enforcement, basically waiting for him when he comes off active duty. That route is working well for him, and it just all comes down to the person and what you're looking to accomplish with your service. The one thing that I will say, the military has been great to me. 25 years. I'm retiring this year. It was a wonderful choice and definitely helped me to get where I am, as well as helped me advance in my law enforcement career. But it's not for everybody. You definitely don't want to look at it as something to do in order to get to something else, because the military can completely consume you.
Well, thank you so much, Nick, for your service. I want to be respectful of everyone's time, as the event was slated till 4:45. We did have a question come in again about the green holders with the CIA, and I think it's clear that U.S. citizenship is required for all federal agencies, and that green card would need to turn into a citizenship status, right? Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And then we did talk about hiring and an age limit. Is there?
I want to make one comment on that, and I'm sorry, I know we're over time. Yeah. I use my wife as an example. You can join the military with the green card. So my wife is currently in Coast Guard basic training, actually. The Coast Guard is a law enforcement agency, military branch component. The other branches of service also allow green card holders to join. And they also accelerate and can expedite your pathway to naturalization. So I just throw that out there. If you were interested in the military side, there are possibilities there. And although you won't qualify for every job out there, you can qualify for a large number of them. And then once you do get naturalized through the expedited process, then you can qualify for, any and all U.S. citizen jobs.
Thanks, Nick. That's really helpful. Okay, thank you all. You've heard everyone talk about being a mentor through the Liberal Arts Alumni Mentor Program, and I put the link in the chat. The deadline for this is the 22nd. So as you can tell, we have some really awesome alumni available if you apply by the 22nd. Matching will be happening through mid-October, and we will be doing a cohort model where everyone is matched here in the fall, and we will follow you along through the year and have professional development opportunities and connections throughout the year to build the relationship between the mentor and mentees, as well as to provide support for our students and engage. So please, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. The Career Enrichment Network has drop-ins every Wednesday from 1 to 4. So if anyone has a question they're dying to ask and didn't get to ask today, please stop and see us tomorrow from 1 to 4. And someone mentioned LinkedIn. You can go onto LinkedIn and search for our panelists there if they're there, and connect with them there. They're welcome to connect there. Well, thank you all for being here. I appreciate it. I love seeing you all. I continue to share my thanks and gratitude for your support for our students. And you are always the most popular event. So we appreciate that. Thank you all for coming. Next time we'll make it 2 hours.
Thank you, Katie.
See you all. Good luck.
Good luck. Absolutely. Thank you.